Welcome to the Spent the Rent podcast. I am your host, Patty Rose. My guest today is a dear friend of the podcast, Roger McConnell. Roger, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Patrick. It's great to be here today.
Yeah, this is awesome. So we have done a lot of music together in the past. We're going to talk about that today. Today is actually the 11th annual celebration of my 30th birthday. So that is pretty exciting. So if you'd like to make a happy Patty, one way that you can do that is you can go to my website, STRPOD.com, and become a monthly sponsor, or you can donate one-time donation, or you can go to Venmo at Spent the Rent and make a quick happy birthday donation to the podcast. I would greatly appreciate that. Roger McConnell, longtime Oregon musician in the Eugene area. We've been friends for, a long time, 20 years probably now, and close to. And I wanted to have you on. I've wanted to have you on a lot in the past, but we had to make this happen because unfortunately you and your family have received some life-altering news. And so we wanted to kind of raise awareness about what's happening for your family. So let's just jump right into that. And then we'll talk about your music career and what got us to this point. So let's hear what's going on with your family first.
For sure. We have been devastated with some pretty heavy news. My daughter has recently been diagnosed with leukemia. Caught us by surprise. Other than several months, probably 6 months prior to, she was complaining of some pain in the joints, mainly her wrists and her knees. And at the time, we had her in dance classes, and so we just associated with possibly some kind of prolonged inflammation or something having to do with her dancing, and didn't want to even ever consider anything real serious.
Right.
But she just kept complaining of the pain until we finally brought her in and demanded a blood test to get to the bottom of it. And we found out she had leukemia. And so instantly, in almost like a second, less than a second, our life, pretty much
just completely changed.
Down.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's 10 years old.
Yeah.
So this is a young kid. So this is life-changing. So you got life flighted up to Portland. Talk about that.
Yeah. So basically, as soon as we got the word, they informed us in the same sentence that we have airlift already lined up for her to take her up to Dornbecker's up in Portland. And it was basically a attempt to save her life at that moment. And so far, it's been an emotional roller coaster ride. It just changes from every day, 1 minute to the next, where you think she's doing great, and then the next moment we're rushing her back to the emergency room, and that's happened several times. So it's learning about this disease, what it does, and how to go about treating it, and then trying to navigate through all the emotions is
Right. It's a daily process, I'm sure.
It is. I'm trying to just find an even keel that just kind of goes right along with the whole experience instead of getting too excited or too depressed. Like, just try to keep it even as Steven. And
yeah, I wanted to bring that up first because there's a GoFundMe. It's GoFundMe.com/Irie-McConnell. It's IRIE-MCCONNELL. The link will be in the show notes to that. Again, it's GoFundMe.com/Irie-McConnell. And I'll put that up on the screen as well. So donate to Irie McConnell at the GoFundMe.com/Irie-McConnell. And there's more information up there, and I'm sure that there'll be updates and whatnot. And
yeah, I'd like to also direct the attention to Facebook. On Facebook, she has a Team Irie webpage that you can donate off of there as well. But also we keep updated information on how she's doing. And so people that are curious about what's going on can go to Team Irie on Facebook to find out what the latest is.
Yeah. So it's pretty heartbreaking. So you had recently had a benefit concert. We were going to do this before and I would kind of help promote it, but the timing just didn't work. So tell us about that. That was is it Twisted River Saloon?
It was held at Twisted River last Sunday, the 26th of February, and it was an amazing event. We had 4 bands all come together and donate their time. And we had a lot of people in the community come support it. We had a lot of sponsorship to give us a bunch of gifts for the raffle. So overall, it was an extreme success, and along with just the awareness and the love that came through that event was just immense.
Yeah. I mean, I know as a musician that cares deeply about community, I can't even begin to imagine how many benefit concerts you've put on for other people. And I'm sure that down the road or along the road, you've probably had a couple for yourself, because it's a struggle as a musician. Maybe not.
That was the first one
Was that
ever
the
for
first one?
myself. Yeah, usually, when Katrina hit and any catastrophes that happen, the first thing we do as a musical community is put together fundraiser for these tragic events to try to help relieve some of the financial burdens and also just emotional support.
Right. Now let's go into the backstory because I've been hitting at it. You're a Eugene musician, but let's talk about what that actually means. You've been making music for 30 plus 40 years, something like that, 50.
I decided when I was 12 years old I was going to make a career out of playing music and dedicated and devoted my every day to picking up the guitar at least once a day to make that happen, and I did it.
Yeah.
I made that commitment, and that's where I've been ever since I was
12 years old. So and you grew up in a super musical family.
Yes.
I know that your brother Maurice is a big part of that. Talk about that and what that was like growing up in a super musical family.
Yeah, well, to start out, both of my parents, father and mother, are very established musicians in their own rights. My father went to the Juilliard School of Music.
Oh, wow.
He was more or less thrown into by his parents a life of music, which it was interesting because being told and expected to do it, he rebelled against it as time went on. And by the time he was 15, he had ran away from all that.
Wow.
And so then my mother and father met in a bar. My dad was caught a performance of my mother at the piano, and that was it. And so my mother as well is a very established musician. And so it's in our blood, the kids, and I got a younger brother and an older brother, and
all three are
established musicians as well.
Yes. A lot of family band stuff. A lot of the way that we met was a karaoke at the Black Forest El Dorado on West 11th. And so explain to me what karaoke is. That's when you basically do karaoke, but it's a full live band, right?
Right. Yeah. We were supplying a service to the people that if they want to get the experience of what it's like to play with a band instead of just a backing track, what a normal karaoke would be. This way you're able to interact with musicians and get a real deep experience of what that is all about.
Yeah. And I love that because your whole attitude of just the way you describe it is about the person that's going to the bar to just make a shit show of themselves like on karaoke. And I love that was the point. The point is that you get to just have fun and play rock band, real life rock band. And I always say this on the show. I don't consider myself to be a musician. I consider myself to be a recording artist or a digital artist of some sort. And so when you kind of opened the door for someone like me to get on stage, it was super incredible for me because all I knew how to do was make drunken freestyles. And you're like, what should I play? If we're going to do hip hop, I'm like, just do Sublime. And you would play Sublime songs and I would just, make an ass of myself. But you were always super supportive of that. And I just really, really appreciate that because a lot of times when you don't know what genre you fall in, people are really kind of like, I don't really know if I want to work with you. And there was even some drummers and some old timers, because you guys are probably the next generation above me, you're somewhere in between, but, and they were not having it. And you were like, no, just be patient. You do you, a hip hop artist will adapt to that. Uh-huh. And I just love that. That was so incredible. So those karaoke days were just a lot of fun. So what inspires you when you write music or perform on stage? Are there any particular artists or genres that have influenced your work?
There's so many. But to start at the beginning, it would probably be the major influence was the Beatles, which was pretty much a given for anyone during my generation.
I think the greatest band of all time, absolutely the greatest pop band, if you want to narrow it down to that kind of, so
you just the message that they brought, and just everything just was on a whole nother level. It seemed like what they were creating was definitely magic, and they didn't have many tools to cover up much back then. What you heard is what was being done,
right? And they mistakenly kind of discovered sampling, that on Sgt. Pepper's, that has changed the face of music, in every way. And I know there's a debate on who started it, but there's a lot of people that credit the Beatles for kind of accidentally sampling, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that discover that at different places. But
that would be the mastery of George Martin, their producer. He was quite the innovator when it came to really adding the special sauce to the mixes.
As far as live performance, because that's kind of where you haven't done a ton of recording, right? Mostly it's just kind of live performances. You've got a few albums and stuff with bands.
Yeah, mostly live.
So as far as live performance, who were some influences there that when you were growing up, that you would watch that you're like, I want to be that guy. I want to be like that guy.
Well, that would have been Jimi Hendrix was the first guy I laid eyes on and went, holy cow, what's going on here?
Yeah.
He was just so mesmerizing with what he did, and it was so different from what anyone else was doing at the time.
Yeah, and it's like his guitar is just an extension of his soul. I mean, God. It's more than almost anybody ever. Sadly, I work as a barber on campus, and we've been listening to Jimi Hendrix radio on Spotify lately, and I asked the college kids, just curious. I'm like, do you guys know who this is? And they never do. And I mean, it's not never, but it's rare. And I think what it comes down to is that when I was coming up, that was the generation before. Jimi Hendrix was 20 years before, 15 years before when I was born. So they're listening to the stuff that people my age now grew up listening to, like Nirvana, Green Day, shit like that. And that's classic rock or whatever you want to call it. And so it's just lost on that generation. It's really sad.
Right.
So hopefully there's a revitalization of that classic rock era, because I think the kids are missing out if they're not paying attention to it. So.
Well, that's kind of my job. It's where I come in, as I'm the torch carrier of that generation still, and I'm not ready to pass it off yet. So I represent that whole genre. I'm
a huge fan of bar shows, and I've been to quite a few of your performances. Lately, where's a venue that you've been doing a lot of shows? I think you've been doing a lot of stuff in Junction City.
I have been doing Bugsy's. Yeah, I just recently joined a band called Higher Ground, and we're play pretty much the immediate club scene around this area.
And then lots of casino stuff over the years, right? Those are good gigs, right?
Yeah, I mean, they are. They treat you like rock stars there.
So that's rad. I mean, I know that. So how has your music evolved over the years? How have you experimented with different styles or techniques?
Well, I actively write all styles of music. I listen to country from I'm having a brain fart. Lucas Nelson, which is Willie's son. I've been really getting into him lately on a country kick, even though he's kind of rocked it up a bit. And then, I'm always seeking out new women artists and stuff, trying to keep up on supporting the women. I think it's real important. They have a lot to offer, and it seems like most of the time they kind of get shunned.
Sure. Today is National Women's Day, by the way, which I share a birthday with National Women's Day. So that's something. So shout out to the ladies out there, and shout out to the like you said, women artists. There's some pretty incredible singer-songwriters that we used to do a lot of mixed genre shows, primarily at the Black Forest, and I remember a few that we would rock with that was just awesome. So I can't remember any names offhand, but there's a lot of talented musicians in Oregon. I know Ishelle is one that you work with a lot.
Exactly. I've stuck with her and backed her action for probably good 30 plus years.
Yeah, there's a lot of, that's why I wanted to have you on, because I think that there's just so much history in Eugene that is kind of getting lost. Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk, I kind of made it a interlude towards, I'm a 90s kid. Let's talk about the 80s in Eugene. I mean, so first of all, are you from Oregon originally?
I am not. I was born in Westwood, California.
Okay.
At UCLA University Hospital.
Right. And
so
what's your Oregon story? How did you get to Oregon?
So I was born in LA, but then we quickly moved. I think by the time I was 3, I was already up in the Bay Area, San Francisco, soaking up all the hippie vibes that were being offered in the mid 60s. and then up to the early 70s. And by the time 1974 came, my other dad, John Varley, science fiction writer, was starting to get some notoriety in his writings. And we got to go up to the World's Fair on some of the money that he accumulated from his first book. So as we drove up to Vancouver, Washington, or excuse me, Yakima. Yakima is where the World's Fair was.
Right.
We drove through Eugene to stop there to stay with some old San Francisco friends that had moved to Eugene. And so when we stopped there, I instantly fell in love with Eugene.
Yeah. What year was this? Do you know?
1974.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't even imagine Eugene in 74. It had to have been just a free loving, pretty wild place. If you remember it, you weren't there, right? Right. That's
part of the deal. You know, it was always, and it still is, you know, basically built around being a college town. But back then, there was a certain spirit, especially with the kids, to where there was keggers every weekend, and we just took over as the kids scene. There was just hundreds of kids at these houses, and it was just a really cool vibe. It's hard to explain unless you were there.
I've been told that the 90s were the tail end, that there was a little bit of, you could still feel it, and then it died by 2000s. But like, you know, I know it wasn't to the same like extreme, but there was still a lot of live music, and there was kind of this, I was seeing kind of a genre bending of the hippie movement, and then pop punk was kind of getting popular, and like the punk rock, you know, stuff was going on. But I mean, Eugene, the one thing is that the downtown campus area, if you heard live music, it was you were welcome to go in, you know, and that was the vibe that I think that you don't see today, where we're all just kind of in our corners now. It used to be everybody was welcome, including all ages. You would go to shows, which I look back at it, and I'm like, some of those old guys that were letting a 14-year-old in there to drink, I don't know what I think about it. But the reality is, at the time, it was kind of under control. There would be guys that were there that were older, like, hey, look at that young girl, you should go talk to her, whatever, you know. It was fluid, and it affect, you know, going to be all, but it's kind of I think we might for a second here. You know, what's the next question? Oh, we're gonna actually hear you play a little bit of guitar. I thought it would be kind of fun for us to hear some licks. So maybe you'd play a little tidbit. We're not gonna play like a full-on track, but we're gonna do just little parts of a song. One song that you wrote that we sampled, and that's how we kind of crossed paths. Uncle Nancy sampled one of your albums, and then I showed you, and you're like, that's pretty cool. Got a kick out of it. We started talking that way. And so we were going to play that one first, and then we're going to play a little tidbit of a song that you and I did together. So,
okay, let's do it.
This is Roger McConnell on the axe.
So the song that you're referring to is called Windblow, and it goes something like this.
Yeah, so that one we ended up sampling that. I want to. Robert McDonald is leaving a comment. He said, "I forgot that Patrick and Roger had a song together. We have quite a few actually. Our Christmas album, Roger. That's probably my favorite. Actually, it's kind of sad that a Christmas EP might be my best work. But if you go on Spotify under Patty Rose, you can listen to that. Plus, I have one of your songs that's basically just you. I just kind of did a quick little hook. We've got maybe 8 or 9 songs that are together, maybe even more. There's some subtle stuff, and then there's a lot. In one of my projects, you did a lot of lead. You did a lot of solos and stuff, and that was pretty fun. So let's go ahead and play the other track, and then or the other little tidbit. So again, here's Roger McConnell on the guitar.
All right, this one's called "Drive to LA." Bought me a Chevy and she's ready to cruise. All suit up, start spreading the news. Going back to Cali, place of my birth. Going back to Cali for what it's worth. I done packed my bags, going to leave this place and drive to LA. Yeah. Beep beep.
That is the best.
Little sample.
Yeah. So you do a lot of covers. What do you think? Let's hear one. What's your favorite cover to play to kind of get the crowd moving?
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, dude. Nirvana.
Metallica.
I know. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of bar shows, a lot of, it's funny because it seems like they're like in Mohawk Tavern, for example, in Springfield, it seems like it's locked in with like the Megadeth, that era. And it's pretty cool to see that still exist.
Right.
I'm always curious to see. Right. I'm always curious to see the next generation if they're going to be doing hip hop shows at 50 years old.
Right.
So let's talk about the pandemic a little bit. I hate that I have to bring it up still, but every musician, everyone was impacted so greatly. Talk about how that impacted your music career and the challenges of adapting to this new technology and reality of live performance and audience engagement. That's all about algorithms and all this different stuff that you've seen technology advance from like eight tracks, and all that stuff to where we're at today. And so tell me about how much the pandemic kind of threw a wrench in everything.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's basically what happened. It wiped out my whole life long dream of being a musician, because for the time being when COVID hit, it wiped everything out as far as anything to do with gathering people. And that's pretty much
yeah. What a rough time, and I covered it ad nauseum, talking about all the different areas of society that were just crumbling, and now we're still seeing the aftermath. And I'm glad that we're starting to kind of come out the other end, and that people have changed the way that they go about stuff. It's harder to get people to get out to shows because they're just constantly, is it good? Is it good? They're entertained by their phones.
Right.
And so that's a huge challenge.
So what it did for me was it was time, since everything slowed down, it allowed me time to really kind of reflect upon my whole approach to music and even my own efforts. So I made another conscious decision to just put more energy into my songwriting and getting it out there.
Sure.
And it's been a struggle within itself, just trying to get the stuff recorded and then get it to CD is quite the
whatever.
process.
Just getting it on digital places. And I'd love to help any way I can. The dilemma of a independent artist, it's like, how much money do I want to invest when there's not money on the other end? It's like you can make it all polished and sound great, but then the return, it's just really difficult. I mean, there's so much competition. The beauty of the new technology is that anybody has access to the tools. It does kind of flood the market a little bit. So there's a lot of kind of, questionable stuff. So it's harder to kind of actually have your stuff rise to the top. That's why, you've being so focused on live shows, that's how you pay the bills. That's how, it's these quick little gigs. And that's where COVID was so difficult. It's like gig workers, there were a lot of cash jobs that are kind of some of the times you're falling under the tax radar. I mean, you're literally not making in some years enough to even be liable to have to pay taxes. So it was hard to report all that stuff. And then they got kind of, it was hard on us as barbers too. What advice would you give to aspiring musicians and performers who are just starting out in the industry?
We seem to live in a time where, whether it's YouTube or The Voice, The View, or not The View, The Voice, and all these TV shows where fame seems to come instantly to some of these people. And I think part of the process of learning your craft and buying more time to be able to prepare yourself for such pressure is way overlooked and not considered as much anymore. So I think it's harder for the artists to maintain themselves once they go from being a nobody to somebody almost overnight. It could be very warping, the pressure alone on the artist. So my advice is to, don't just think in terms of music, but in business as well. And how would you handle, how would you handle all that attention and all that pressure? If you come out of the gate with some really hot stuff, then you're expected from there, that point on, to always be producing that kind of material.
Absolutely. And I think that a big thing is that I say it all the time, you should enjoy the process of making music more than the finished product. So the recordings and the high of releasing something shouldn't be the excitement. The excitement should be the creation of it. You know what I mean? And so it's like a lot of times I've felt it where I just want new content. You want to put out new stuff. Sometimes it's about just enjoying the process of recording it. I don't know if I've had more fun in my life than the times that I've been, we call it in the studio, but it's a lot of times it's been in our living room or a room like this. But still, I mean, it is a studio in a way. It's just not soundproofed, but I don't know how many times, I can't tell you how fun it is to get into a room with a bunch of people and just build something out of nothing, and
that's what I appreciate about working with you over the years. It's just been that the process with you is I show up, I have no clue. I had no preview of what you were going to show me or what I was going to play. And so everything we do is spot on the spot, improvise.
Yeah.
You play it, and like 5 minutes later, we got the record button pushed. And I would say 8 times out of 10, I'm pretty satisfied.
It's pretty unique. I don't even know. People ask me what kind of music I do, and I'm like, I don't know. I make this like pop punk, hip hop inspired mix of music, and then I have a couple 60-year-olds come and add some instruments to it. It's kind of, I don't think you're quite 60, but it's just my friend Pat Miller, he definitely is over 60. So I made a full album with you guys, and that was 10 years ago. So I was 30. It was beautiful because the genre, mix. I mean, you brought in that classic rock feel. I was doing some of the hip hop beats with like this angsty political whatever lyrics. And yeah, it was pretty neat to see what we were able to create. I'm gonna play a song to showcase that, and I chose it because it has a solo of yours that's awesome, and it's kind of like almost Top Gun-ish, and so I really enjoyed it. So I want to thank you for coming on, and this has been really cool. Roger McConnell, and I want to remind everybody, I'm gonna put this up on the screen. If you'd like to donate to Roger's daughter's GoFundMe, GoFundMe.com/Irie. I think it's Irie-McConnell. So if that doesn't come up with just Irie McConnell, go to Irie-McConnell, IRIE-MCCOC or MCCONNELL. It's on the screen. The links will be in the show notes. So yeah, thank you so much, Roger. It's really a treat to chat with you.
Right on, Patrick.
Go ahead.
One more tidbit. If any of you musicians out there want to come down and join us on stage at the Twisted River every Sunday night, we got a jam that we host called the East Side Jam.
Nice.
6 to 10. We encourage everybody to come down. All music is welcome.
Nice.
Everybody, as long as you got a belly button.
Wait, you have to have a belly button though?
Okay.
What about if you don't?
Oh, well.
I think that's fine if you don't. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I don't normally play songs on the video stream. We're gonna try it. Hopefully YouTube doesn't flag it. And so we'll see. It's my music, so it shouldn't, but we'll see. Again, thank you so much, Roger McConnell. You're a stud. I appreciate being your friend. Let's see. We were gonna do which one? We were gonna play. Our Enemy Is Us. So this is me, Patty Rose, featuring Roger McConnell on guitar. The song is called Our Enemy Is Us.
Happy birthday, brother.
Thank you so much. Oh, shoot. I haven't done this yet. So this is the trial run. Hey, I want to thank you for, while I'm getting this set up, I want to thank you for listening to the Spent the Rent podcast. Here's a shout out.
Thank you for supporting the Spent the Rent podcast. If you would like to donate to the show, go to the podcast official website to find out how.
Here we go. This is Our Enemy Is Us by me, Patty Rose, featuring Roger McConnell.
If there's anyone out there who thinks we're confused about who our enemies are,
our enemy is us, society is busted. Gone are the days when a friend can be trusted. Allies are few, far and in between. Right in our face, not behind the scenes. Media is bidding our souls dry, feeding us readers the polls fly. Don't think I'm prepared for this. I've constantly been scared of this. Divisiveness, the righteousness of prideful bliss. I write to this, I cry to this, try to forgive, try to find reasons to live. Our enemy is us, society is wounded. Misinformation, celebrated spoon-fed nonsense. Conscience attacks itself. Everywhere the gap in wealth, the middle class is MIA. Caste system is here to stay. Ignore the poor every day, and with blind faith we say we pray. Led astray by evil leaders. Over here I found some leaders. Treat them with a broken system. If they die, sorry, we miss them.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
Our enemy is us, and it starts from the top. Revolution comes from the bottom up. Love your neighbors without borders. Don't just blindly follow orders. Speak it against what makes you queasy.
I'm watching.
No one said that life was easy. Defeated is a state of mind. Depleted is the state of mind. Speak it against what makes you queasy. No one said that life was easy. Defeated is a state of mind. Depleted is the state of mind. Enemy is us, society is wounded. Misinformation, celebrated spoon-fed nonsense. Conscience attacks itself. Everywhere the gap in wealth, the middle class is MIA. Caste system is here to stay. Ignore the poor every day, and with blind faith we say we pray. Led astray by evil leaders. Over here I found some leaders. Treat them with a broken.
Here's the solo.
If they die, sorry, we miss them.
Yeah, I remember when we made that. That blew my mind. I literally went to the bathroom, came back. You're like, "How about this?" And I'm like, "Are you serious? We're done." That's incredible. It took you like 2 minutes to write that.
Right. Yeah. Just going with the feeling that you laid down. So it's
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. All right, Roger McConnell, thank you so much. We're gonna get out of here.